In the company, my half-brother, Joseph, and I were locked in a fierce rivalry. Joseph raised an eyebrow, his voice playful. "Sister, the CEO position is already mine. What can you do?" I retaliated by slapping him across the face. Shareholders were shocked, and the media speculated on who would prevail in this public confrontation. But no one knew that in private. He held my hand, eyes welling up. "Sister, can you slap me again?" We have already bickered to the point of being like siblings. In a senior management meeting, my father announced his upcoming retirement, declaring that Joseph, his long-hidden illegitimate son, would inherit his CEO position. The atmosphere froze with tension, and no one dared to speak. The glances from the executives towards me held pity, mockery, and most of all, astonishment. After all, before Joseph's sudden appearance at the headquarters, I had been managing the company for years with ruthless efficiency and outstanding performance. Whether by bloodline or capability, I was the best candidate to inherit the company. I scoffed and, step by step in my high heels, approached Joseph. He stood tall in his suit, smirking at me. "Sorry, sister. This is a blatant provocation." I raised my head and smirked back at him. "Get lost." Then, right in front of my father, I raised my hand and slapped him across the face. I used all my strength for that slap, and his fair skin immediately showed a bright red mark. The sharp nails on my fingers left a wound oozing with blood on his face. Gasps filled the air. My father, enraged, was about to strike me with his cane. "You old fool, you get lost too." Ignoring his fury, I grabbed a contract from the table and smashed it hard on his head. Pushing open the door to the restroom, intending to rinse my throbbing hand with cold water, I was unexpectedly pulled into a nearby safety corridor with force. Joseph lowered his head, gently kissing my palm, pressing me against the door. "Sister, does it hurt?" He was much taller than me, even though I was wearing high heels. He towered over me. But at that moment, he appeared like a vulnerable pet, cautiously trying to please. A stark contrast to his previous aggressive demeanor. "I'm fine," I coldly responded, trying to pull my hand away, but he held it tighter. Joseph forcefully squeezed his knee between my legs, pressing against me intimately. The motion sensor lights in the hallway dimmed, casting us in darkness. He nuzzled against my neck, nibbling at my earlobe, his warm breath grazing my skin, stirring delicate tingles. With sight restricted, touch became all the more acute. I flinched, and Joseph promptly drew back. He was skilled at concealing his unintentional reveals of his true self. Before I could reprimand him, Joseph knelt down, holding my hand against his cheek, pitifully asking, "Sister, was my performance convincing?" "Not bad, brother. Can you slap me again?" I playfully raised a foot and lightly kicked his chest, leaning towards him with a smile. "Be good, I'll reward you later tonight." Joseph's previously dim eyes now sparkled as if stardust had been sprinkled into them. "Sister, I'll be waiting for you at home." Obediently. Late at night, I boarded a flight to the United States. Looking at the dozens of missed calls on my phone, I stayed silent for a moment, then decisively disconnected and broke the SIM card in half. As the plane smoothly entered the stratosphere, I gazed out into the vast night sky, and the tension in my heart finally subsided. Everything was finally coming to an end. I slowly closed my eyes. My mother came from a wealthy family but was unable to bear children due to her frail health. My paternal grandparents then came up with the idea of getting a son-in-law. It was at this time that my father approached my mother. At first, my father was extremely caring towards her, swearing that he didn't mind her lack of heirs, and repeatedly emphasized that he simply wanted to spend his life with her. After they got married, my mother adopted me and treated me like her own, grooming me to be a more outstanding business person than she was. The three of us lived happily together. Until my mother's unexpected death, my so-called father finally revealed his ambition. He had long been keeping a woman and a child on the side, aiming to gradually consolidate power and eventually take over my mother's business empire. Upon discovering this plan, I began to get close to Joseph to plot my revenge. At that time, Joseph was only a freshman in college, naive and innocent. I confided in him about the pain of losing my mother and expressed my despair over my father's betrayal. He felt so sorry for me, so heartbroken, that when he found out that his biological father was my adoptive father, he was easily swayed by me. Thus, I relied on him to obtain numerous pieces of evidence against my adoptive father and secretly transferred assets overseas to establish a new company. I told him that as long as we worked together to bring down my adoptive father, there would be no obstacles between us, and we could be together openly and honestly. But in reality, I deceived Joseph. I never had any intention of being with him. I just needed a scapegoat. The next day, the company went bankrupt, and the scandal broke out. My adoptive father became a public pariah, losing all his reputation and wealth. The news of Carter Group's former CEO being imprisoned made national headlines. And all the evidence pointed to Joseph. In the video, with flashes of cameras, numerous microphones were thrust in front of Joseph. Why did you treat your father like this? I heard that you just took over as CEO yesterday. Why did you choose to ruin your career? According to sources, before you took office, the company's senior management and resources had been completely drained. The company was already an empty shell. Is this also your doing? Joseph stared firmly at the camera, his eyes filled with intense emotions. There was almost a moment when I felt like he was staring right at me. After a moment, he chuckled lightly. Yes, it was all me. As soon as he spoke, my adoptive father was brought out from the building by the police, and the media swarmed around him, broadcasting his elderly face in a state of despair. In a corner where no one paid attention, Joseph mouthed silently, "Sister, I love you." He knew I was watching him. I shut off the tablet abruptly, my heart pounding uncontrollably. Joseph, deep down, was a cold-blooded madman like me. Years ago, my adoptive father, to ensure his plan was foolproof, had visited Joseph and his mother only a handful of times each year. He didn't even dare to transfer money through any channel, relying on verbal promises time and time again. Over time, Joseph's mother felt she had been cheated out of her wealth and became an emotionally volatile woman, unleashing her resentment towards my adoptive father on the child. Joseph's childhood was tragic. Already deprived of parental love, and with the loss of his mother as well, the economic poverty and the label of being from a single-parent family made him a target of ridicule and bullying in school. His self-esteem was crushed time and time again. Growing up in such a distorted environment, his character turned paranoid, ruthless, and extremely adept at disguising his true self. The day I encountered him, it was pouring rain. He was being beaten by a group of thugs in an alley, blood streaming from his head. Even though Joseph had found an iron rod on the ground, when he saw me approaching, he dropped it and was unable to resist. His eyes welled up, looking at me with a wet, pleading gaze. "Sister, please leave. They are all bad people." I signaled to the bodyguards, and the thugs were swiftly dealt with. Joseph nervously wiped the stains from his hands, his pale fingers trembling as he held onto the hem of my clothes. "Sister, thank you for helping me. I'm willing to do any dirty work or tired work. I want to repay you. Sister, can you not abandon me? So pitiful and adorable." If I hadn't seen the triumphant smile on his face, I might have fallen for it. I gave him refuge, redemption, and brought in the most expensive psychologists to teach him how to love someone. Over the years, he had been so obedient. But I never forgot Joseph's true nature. This time, I manipulated him, leaving him with nothing. He wouldn't let me off easily. So, for the next 3 years, I focused on expanding my overseas business and didn't return home. Oddly enough, ever since that interview, Joseph seemed to have vanished into thin air. Some said he couldn't bear the weight of the negative press and had committed suicide. Others speculated that he had changed his identity and was plotting a comeback. In any case, I found no trace of him. Until my company made a major mistake in a merger and acquisition case. I had no choice but to land back in London. Everything had gone smoothly. When returning home, I was worried whether Joseph would set a trap for me in secret. My assistant thought I was being paranoid. After all, he had disappeared without a trace for many years. The company went bankrupt, and he hadn't investigated my whereabouts. I nodded, no longer skeptical. "Boss, I'll go ahead and drive to the basement to unload the luggage. You wait for me at the entrance." I handed the luggage to my assistant and walked towards the airport exit. Little did I know that as soon as I got into the car, a force collided with it, almost sending me flying into the front seat. 7 or 8 Mercedes surrounded my car. The phone rang, Joseph's menacing voice came through. I could faintly hear the clinking of chains. "Sister, will you come down on your own, or shall I push you off?" Or "Sister, crawl over." Before I could answer, the car was violently struck again, crashing into the greenbelt on the side. My assistant, in a panic, held onto the steering wheel. "Boss, what should we do?" I took a deep breath and opened the car door. "You go back to the company. Wait for my message." Inside the car, Joseph leaned against the back seat, his long legs crossed. His fair and slender fingers casually played with a silver lighter, switching the flame on and off absent-mindedly. The flame flickered. Joseph's eyes were dark, as if he were trying hard to suppress something. The quiet space was filled only with the crackling sound of the burning flames. I couldn't quite read his emotions at that moment. After much contemplation, I carefully chose the most polite form of address. Judging from his demeanor and style of dress, Joseph must have been doing exceptionally well in these years. Just the fact that I couldn't find any trace of him meant that he must have a strong presence in London, with influence both in the legitimate and underground circles. One must be cautious when dealing with someone under the same roof, especially when I was the one who acted treacherously. First up, Mr. Joseph, what brings you to me? The lighter was suddenly shut with a heavy click. Joseph finally looked up at me. Mr. Joseph? He repeated my words teasingly, then smiled lightly. Joseph gently tucked a stray strand of my hair behind my ear. Sister, why so formal? But there was no hint of a smile in his eyes. My heart skipped a beat. In the next moment, he unexpectedly grabbed my chin. Joseph pulled me into his embrace, forcing me to look up at him. Still trying to distance yourself from me? His tone was harsh, and the pressure of his grip increased. I could see the veins on the back of his hand bulging. Breathing became somewhat difficult. I winced in pain, taking a sharp breath. Joseph instinctively let go of his grip. This action left both of us stunned. Joseph then became more aggressive, forcefully grabbing my waist and turning me around to kneel on the leather armchair with my back facing him. Realizing what he intended to do, I could no longer maintain my composure. Joseph. Let me go! What are you doing? Let me go, like a fierce beast toying with its prey. The more I struggled, the more excited he became. Joseph kissed the soft flesh behind my ear, a malicious smile on his face. Sister, steady yourself. Don't fall off this time. I passed out from the torment. When I woke up, I found myself in a strange villa. My feet felt a chilly touch as I lifted the blanket and saw a chain around my ankle, with a bell attached at the end. The soreness all over my body dulled my thoughts. I struggled to sit up on the bed and realized that I had been taken away by Joseph. A sense of unease magnified instantly. Ignoring the slippers, I ran barefoot downstairs, attempting to open the door. But no matter how hard I tried, the doorknob wouldn't turn. Was I being held captive? I pounded on the door in desperation. Joseph, let me out! I warn you, it's illegal for you to do this. Who gave you the right to detain me? My outburst was so loud that I didn't hear Joseph's footsteps approaching. Sister, trying to run again? He suddenly appeared behind me, wrapping me in his arms and resting my head on his shoulder. His thumb lightly pressed against the pulsing vein on my neck. His silent appearance startled me, freezing me in place. Sensing my tension, Joseph chuckled softly. Are you afraid of me too, sister? Joseph, don't go crazy. This seemed to provoke him. Joseph's voice turned harsh and stubborn. Crazy? I've been crazy ever since you abandoned me that day. Don't you understand? I turned around to push him away, but was caught by his grip on my wrist. Joseph easily controlled my hands, pressing them over my head as he approached. Sister, you provoked me first. I was pushed back against the door, with no escape. The possessiveness in Joseph's eyes was so intense that it felt suffocating. Like an outlet for his pent-up emotions, he kissed my lips fiercely until a taste of blood filled my mouth. His intensity left me breathless, and my legs weakened. Joseph, let me go. He smirked briefly and hoisted me around the waist, walking directly to the bedroom. Throwing me onto the bed, he leaned over me once again, kissing me more aggressively. Joseph became even more frantic than before. I was completely powerless against his advances. My tongue went numb from his kisses, and the spots where my lips split from his biting were throbbing, making me want to cry. For the first time in so many years, I felt truly panicked. Joseph, no. Stop, please stop. Let me go back. I pulled the covers over me and shrunk away, continuously shaking my head to avoid him. Joseph lightly bit my collarbone, then slowly stood up, starting to undress me. Joseph, please, let me go back, please. I was genuinely scared this time. He licked the blood at the corner of his lips like a beautiful vampire. Whatever little resistance I had was shattered by him. Joseph grasped my waist and thrust his hips forcefully, chuckling softly. Sister, leave me. Who said you could defy me? That night, the bell's crisp sound never stopped. In the following days, Joseph became very busy. I was locked in the villa, unable to leave or see him. Calming down, I decided to regain some control. All these years, I had merely been in a position to give him orders. Making up my mind, I went straight to the bedroom. As I tried on the 8th piece of lace nightgown, Joseph appeared. I knew there were surveillance cameras installed in the villa. Shut up, turn your back, and kneel. I regained my past commanding presence, not giving him a chance to speak. Joseph remained calm, without any objections, obediently kneeling down. He must have hurried back from work, dressed in a dark suit, looking elegant and poised. Due to my selfishness, he straightened his chest. The shirt felt slightly tight against his firm chest muscles. I nodded in satisfaction, then grabbed his tie and looked down at him. Joseph, I need to go out. Okay. I stood there dumbfounded for a few seconds, not knowing what to say. Was it really this easy? A trace of desire appeared in Joseph's eyes, and he spoke slowly. Sister, was that fun just now? Fun. I blurted out without understanding Joseph's change in attitude. He untied his tie and made a knot around my wrist. Well, now it's my turn to have fun. That evening, Joseph carried me out of the bathtub. I changed clothes, ready to go out. As soon as I got off the bed, he resumed his cold demeanor. When I realized this, my expression darkened. I don't want to go out with you, I want to go by myself. Joseph held my ankle, dragging me from the head of the bed to the edge. Leaning down, he pinned me down with his hands on either side. Sister, you can also choose not to go out. Are you threatening me? I laughed in anger, giving him a slap. So what? Joseph smirked, showing no sign of annoyance. My company has encountered issues, all thanks to your hand. If you know that, why always try to be against me? Without waiting for my response, he picked up the car keys and walked towards the elevator. I was angry but had to compromise. The club's lights were dim. Joseph was immediately surrounded by a group of seductive women as soon as he entered. He sat down indifferently, his suit slightly open, exuding a lazy and noble air. Joseph, why's your mood so bad today? Let me accompany you properly. Who is she? I pointedly chose a seat farthest away from them. The women were relieved and moved closer to Joseph. He kept his eyes fixed on me, his face growing colder. I was surprised. Isn't this cooperative enough? I stood up considerately, giving them space to play. I'm just here with Joseph, that's all. The women relaxed and tried to flirt with Joseph, who kept watching me, his expression still cold. I felt a sudden surge of annoyance. Grabbing my bag, I hastened toward the restroom. Time was running out, so I stopped the first waitress I encountered. Can I borrow your phone for a moment? Realizing that everyone here worked for Joseph, I knew I couldn't just leave. The only way was to inform my people, finding a way to get help from outside and within. Kathy? Steve emerged from a nearby private room at that moment, a youthful smile lighting up his face as he saw me. You don't belong here, go back. Kathy, where have you been all these years? The waitress gave me an apologetic look before walking away. This club is exclusive, frequented by the rich and powerful. She clearly didn't want to offend any customers. How unlucky. Steve was my former fiancé. Forced by my adopted father to secure a powerful alliance, I had to agree to the engagement to lower my father's suspicions. We lost contact after I went abroad. Now, I had no desire to catch up with him, especially considering my recent abduction by Joseph. I didn't want more people to know. I have something to attend to, I'll go first. Frustrated, I turned to leave. But Steve grabbed my arm. Kathy, why are you running? Did you lose your phone? I can lend you mine. Did you change your number? I've been trying to find you. Steve, the youngest son of the family, had been pampered since childhood. Transparent in his thoughts, he wore his heart on his sleeve. I knew he had feelings for me, or else how could he agree to that ill-fated engagement back then? Joseph was quite jealous at the time over our relationship. Seeing Steve's insistence, I realized I couldn't just leave like this. But I didn't have time to distract myself with him, especially not wanting Joseph to find out. In a desperate move, I put on a fake smile. Thank you. I picked up his phone and dialed the number, my nerves highly concentrated due to the tension. I didn't notice Joseph approaching until Steve groaned and was kicked to the ground. I turned my head in shock to see Joseph smoking, a sinister smile on his face. He released the half-empty bottle in his hand and walked towards me. The shattering sound of glass hitting the floor felt like it was piercing my heart. Sister, do you not care at all who I'm with? Are you only thinking about him in your heart? Are you so happy hiding here and dating your old flame? Were all those things you said before just a show for me? Joseph's voice suddenly became more forceful, like a wild beast on the brink of losing control. I involuntarily trembled and coldly replied, our grievances should not involve others. After making sure Steve was okay, I continued, and Joseph, what kind of relationship do we have? We broke up a long time ago. Broke up? Joseph chuckled mockingly, anger swirling in his dark eyes. Kathy, do you think I'm that despicable? For some reason, my heart felt empty in an instant. Joseph. Joseph abruptly pushed open the door and walked out without looking back. I was escorted back to the villa by the bodyguards. I didn't know where Joseph had gone. I sat in the empty living room, hugging a pillow and staring blankly. There was a tightness in my chest, as if I couldn't catch my breath. Late into the night, the sound of the door lock echoed. Joseph staggered in, reeking of alcohol. When he saw me sitting on the couch, he furrowed his brow. "Who are you?" I didn't want to argue with a drunk, so I replied politely, "I am Kathy." "Sister?" He muttered, then suddenly laughed. His eyes were red, as if he had just been crying. "How could it be you? How could my sister be here? She doesn't want me anymore." He collapsed next to me, cheeks flushed, with a sense of being broken and vulnerable. A few buttons of his shirt were undone, revealing well-defined abs. His black hair hung messily, looking like a friendly big dog. Under the influence of alcohol, his usually aggressive eyes softened. This non-threatening Joseph made my heart melt. Did he really miss me that much? Joseph mumbled for warmth and tried to take off his clothes again. "Joseph, don't undress anymore, you'll catch a cold." I struggled to stop him, but in the end, I sternly scolded him out of frustration. The previously irritable Joseph became strangely quiet upon hearing my scolding. He hesitated for a few seconds, then forcefully pulled me into his arms. "Sister, you really are my sister." He held onto my waist tightly, burying his head in my neck and nuzzling. After a while, he moved on to nibble on my earlobe discontentedly. His voice was muffled as he coaxed, "Sister, don't ignore me. I was wrong. I was wrong in every way. Will you keep using me? Don't leave me, please." Joseph was like an abandoned puppy. No matter how much he was scolded or driven away, he would come back looking for affection. I wanted to push his hand away, but found myself hesitating. Tears welled up in my eyes. When I first met Joseph, he chose to disguise himself. He saw an opportunity to change his fate in my luxurious coat and the Maybach with the license plate 4888. I thought our relationship was based on mutual exploitation. The so-called feelings were also built on the foundation of me being the heiress of family. After all, if I didn't have this identity, he wouldn't have smiled at me so charmingly the first time we met. I was abandoned by my biological parents and left in an orphanage. It was a scar that always lingered in my heart. It made me become reclusive and antisocial, with a strong sense of self-abandonment. Until I met my foster mother. She was sitting among a group of children, dressed beautifully. I huddled in a corner, finding the noisy laughter grating. Orphanage children were always precocious, trying to please others and showcase their talents. I didn't think she would choose me. My presence was too inconspicuous, and a few times I was chosen by adoptive parents based on looks, only to be left behind due to personality conflicts. But my foster mother was determined. She told the director that I had a connection with her and should be her daughter. It was the first time someone loved me so fervently. But then she left. Behind the accident were countless unspoken conspiracies. I felt like a patient who had briefly tasted oxygen but was suffocating again. So, I shed the disguise and reverted to the unsmiling person I was. Perhaps lacking my foster mother's guidance, I became the ruthless capitalist everyone spoke of. Before, I didn't see anything wrong with it. As long as I didn't love, I wouldn't be hurt. I didn't want to experience that bone-chilling despair for the third time. But now, for the first time, I faced a dilemma I couldn't judge. I began to question whether my approach to relationships was wrong. Had I closed myself off too much? It took a lot of effort to move Joseph back to the bedroom. But when I woke up the next day, he was gone. I touched the indented side of the bed, and my heart twitched imperceptibly. Joseph probably didn't remember what he said last night when he was drunk. It saved me the trouble of figuring out how to face him. As I walked downstairs, I heard footsteps in the living room and subconsciously called out, "Joseph?" Instead, a sweet female voice responded. I remembered her. Jessica, the daughter of the former second largest shareholder in the company. Back then, Jessica's father had immediately conspired with my foster father after my mother's death, attempting to divide the power in my hands. I ruined my foster father later, causing Jessica's father to lose millions. Jessica held onto Joseph's suit and smiled brightly at me. "Hello, sister, I am Joseph's fiancé." "Fiancé?" I tightened my grip on the water glass without realizing. "Yes, we are getting married next month. You are welcome to attend the wedding. I might be leaving for overseas next month, so I wish you both 100 years of happiness in advance." I raised my lips in a smile that felt somewhat forced. Since when did Joseph get so close to my enemy? The thought crossed my mind but was quickly dismissed. After all, Joseph should hate me the most. I turned away, feeling a mix of loneliness and complexity. The electronic lock beeped, signaling Joseph's arrival. He entered with hurried steps. It seemed like he was only a step away from his fiancée being eaten by me. He furrowed his brow, but naturally reached for Jessica's hand. Didn't I ask you to wait for me in the basement? Why did you come in first? Jessica playfully stuck her tongue out. The butler said your sister had returned, so I thought I'd come say hello first. Joseph's expression softened, but his gaze upon me was ice cold. It was a stark contrast to the affectionate look from the night before. I looked away, not wanting to show the bitterness of the difference. She's not a good person. Stay away from her. How could you say that about your sister? It seemed Jessica was well protected by her father and wasn't aware of the dirty past. I watched Jessica's innocent and carefree demeanor and suddenly felt that they were a perfect match. Joseph had lived a hard life in the first half. He couldn't marry a woman who was so scheming. Thinking this, I couldn't help but mock myself for my misplaced emotions the night before. What Joseph couldn't forget last night was probably the warmth his sister once gave him, not the real Kathy. So, I patched up the hole in my heart with armor once again. I was packing my bags in the bedroom when Joseph suddenly pushed the door open. His gaze fell on the luggage and his face darkened. Leaving again? Like he was touched a nerve, he grabbed my wrist and pushed me down on the bed. A nameless anger surged within me. I looked at him with a look that said he was acting crazy. You're getting married, why would I stay? What's the point in staying here? If Jessica knew about our true relationship, wouldn't it be harder for him later? What if she knows? Sister, do you think I'm disgraceful? He cursed and pressed down on me, passionately kissing my neck. What are you talking about? I looked at him with surprise. Were we talking about the same thing? In the past, we couldn't be open about it. Now, it seemed like he didn't want to acknowledge my existence at all. Those noble reasons we had before were just excuses to placate me. You idiot. I listen to whatever you say. He interrupted me and tightened his grip. I admit I lack strong morals, but I would never engage with him knowing he had a fiancée. But the more I struggled, the more he restrained me. Joseph, he raised my skirt to my waist. He planted hot kisses on my skin, leaving bruise-like marks. His cool fingertips trailed up my inner thigh. I tensed, biting his shoulder hard in response. Joseph was breathing heavily, raising his hand to slap my back even harder. Sister, relax a bit. Get out of here, he said cruelly. My voice trembled with tears, and my whole body was shaking. Joseph paused for a few seconds, his hand gently brushing past the corner of my eye. Then he laughed heartlessly. Sister, spare yourself. Maybe in the next life. The relationship between me and Joseph hit rock bottom. I started to search for opportunities to escape faster. Each time Joseph discovered, he would torment me from dusk till dawn. Kissing me over and over, forcing me to say I love him. On the day of Joseph's wedding, the bodyguards in the villa received a phone call and left in a hurry, as if they were on an urgent mission. I looked out at the deserted mansion, feeling a sense of unreality deep in my heart. Was this a test? After hesitating for a long time, I pretended to be calm and entered the gate code on the monitor. Joseph never gave me a chance to see the password, but I remembered it when Jessica was off guard last time. I felt my heart in my throat, my fingers uncontrollably twitching as I pressed the button. Each passing second felt so long that I waited for 10 minutes, but no alarm went off. A secretive sense of excitement surged within me. Carefully, I took a step forward. Still, nothing happened. It seemed like Joseph was truly dealing with an urgent situation. Now or never. Not caring about anything, I put on my sneakers and ran as fast as I could. The mansion was located in a remote area. I walked from afternoon till dusk before finally finding a small supermarket. I hurriedly asked the shop owner to lend me a phone to send the location to my assistant. 2 hours later, I finally met up with my people. I saw a strong man in a suit behind my assistant, which calmed my anxious emotions a bit. Hastily opening the car door, I urged, "Do you have all the documents?" "Boss, everything is arranged. Let's go to the airport, quickly." Now Joseph couldn't reach as far as before. As long as I safely left the country, he wouldn't be able to find me for a while. I thought everything was settled. But as I stepped onto the private plane, my phone rang. It was Joseph. I didn't know when he implanted a program in my phone. I didn't have time to turn it off before it automatically answered. "Sister, you're disobedient again. Joseph's voice was full of weariness, low and hoarse. Like he was extremely tired. I owe you, I'll settle it in these days. I won't come back anymore, this is where we part ways. My heart clenched. Sister, why are you still so heartless? He seemed to be laughing, yet also crying. I took a deep breath and remained silent. There was a sound of intense struggle on Joseph's end, getting closer. Sister, do you really want to leave me? I mustered all my strength to say one word, yes. Tears stunned my eyes. As you wish. The call abruptly ended, followed by a shriek. Listening to the endless busy tone, I suddenly felt a strong sense of panic. My assistant looked at me with concern. Is Joseph in danger? I think I heard sounds of sticks. I remembered the solemn look on the bodyguards when they left. This must be a very serious danger, for even the mansion's manpower to be withdrawn. Could it be Jessica's father intentionally causing trouble at the wedding? He always liked to play dirty tricks. The plane is about to take off. Please turn off your phone, the pilot's voice came over the loudspeaker. My assistant reminded me, boss, for humanitarian reasons, we should call the police, or it'll be too late. Yes, call the police. The scream before the call was still ringing in my ears. I nodded, go check Joseph's phone location. Hurry. When I arrived at the hotel, the lobby was deserted. The banquet hall, which should have been filled with guests, was in shambles. My pupils trembled slightly, and my heart was beating faster and faster. I felt a moment of blankness in my mind, followed by a surge of fear. I sprinted towards the elevator, frantically pressing the button for the top floor. My throat felt constricted, unable to breathe. All the sounds seemed to be muted, with only the escalating ringing in my ears. I stared at the floor numbers ascending, my lips trembling involuntarily. As the bell chimed, the elevator doors slowly opened. What greeted me were countless cries for mercy. Over a dozen thugs lay on the ground, groaning in pain, covered in blood. Joseph was stepping on Jessica's father's head, taunting and mocking. Who do you think you are, trying to harm my sister? So Jessica's father had sensed that I was behind the incident years ago and wanted revenge. Joseph was getting close to them to stop everything and protect me. Thus, this situation, including that phone call, was all under his control. I stood at the elevator entrance, my mind momentarily stunned by the overwhelming scene. Jessica's father was trembling, handing over a USB drive. Everything was handled calmly, with Joseph turning to look at me. His eyes showed no ripples, as if he had anticipated my arrival. Sister, only I can bully you. Isn't that right? He gently wiped away the bloodstain at the corner of his mouth with the back of his hand, smiling. His eyes were full of a twisted sense of love, overwhelming. My eyelashes quivered, and my steps involuntarily stepped back, but he immediately pulled me into his arms. Joseph bent down to tenderly kiss my neck, softly laughing. Sister, I knew you cared about me. In the dim room, Joseph's body temperature was alarmingly high. His sexy Adam's apple rolled with each breath, his eyes filled with an intensity of desire that was indescribable. Joseph, you need to go to the hospital. I won't go. He held onto my waist tightly, as if trying to merge me into his body. Don't think I don't know, you want to use this opportunity to run away. I voluntarily hugged him and whispered softly, I won't run away anymore. Please listen to me. He looked up at me incredulously, his voice shaking. Don't lie to me. I felt my eyes welling up with tears, facing my true feelings. I'm not lying to you. Lying is just for dogs. Joseph stared at me without blinking, as if trying to discern the truth in my words. The next moment, Joseph held the back of my neck and passionately kissed me. Joseph, you're still sick. I whimpered, unable to escape. He bit my tongue lightly, chuckling. Sister, will you be on top? Help me out. His admonitions were drowned out by his kiss. Joseph gripped my waist and pushed downwards harder and harder. In the ebb and flow, I heard his whisper. Sister, I know you're not used to loving someone. That's okay, this time let me teach you.